Hi, this is Brent Raymond. I'm going to walk you through a quick welcome to the CITI application, specifically in this video, the managers. I work in the Information Services Department of the Art Institute of Chicago. I can be reached at bramo@arctic.edu or at the 4D Method user group website, 4dmethod@gmail.com, 4dmethod.wordpress.com. as you see here. So, welcome to CITI. CITI is used for cataloging all of the information about the artworks at the Art Institute. It's a custom application that we've built in 4D, it's a programming language. As you see here is the login screen. I'm going to go ahead and log in. Everyone has their own user accounts. So I'm in. Just before we get started on the managers, I'd like to show you a quick glance at the About screen, because here you can see what version number that you're working in, see the version history for what's been changed in recent versions, and you can have some general contact links here. If you have any trouble, just email us at CITI support. Okay. There we go. So let's take a quick look at the object manager. This is how it will appear for you. All of these areas are expandable or collapsible, so that you can have more room to work in each of the areas. You can access the field palette, which is a list of available fields in CITI per manager here, or by hitting your Control Command F, depending on what platform you're on. This is cross-platform, so works on Windows and Mac. There's a lot of fields, and you may not have access to all of them. However, all of the ones that you'll have access to are listed here in the field palette. To see the filter specifically by searchable or specifically by viewable, or both, because some of them can be used in search and some of them can be used in viewing only, use those filters down below. So coming back to the manager, what you are presented with when you first start it up is the ability to perform searches, a basic search per entity, per object or agent, or other types of managers, as you see there. We'll just have some of the basic fields that you might want to be searching on, including keyword, which is a grouping of several fields that are keyworded. If you don't see the field that you want to search on there, switch to an extended search, and then you'll have access to all the fields that you saw in the field palette. Each of these fields will have different comparators that you can select, and then either free type, or you can bring in a list of particular values. For instance, let's see what would be a good one. Classifications, perhaps, or collection status is a good one. Then you can actually choose from a list of values, or type ahead. Permanent collection, for instance. So that's simple search. You can also bring up what we call advanced search, where you can have multiple fields that can be added into the interface. To add in another field, just drag it in from the field palette, or you can also right-click or control-click, depending on if you have a right-click, and click Fields, showing the currently displayed fields and also the recently used fields that you've searched on in the recent past, or all the other ones grouped into families. So there are also a few search options over here. Let me just move the screen over a bit so you can see them in the video. You can choose to create a new selection with the search in selection, add to the current selection that you have below, or subtract from the selection. Again, you can either do an and or an or between all these fields. So moving on, we have our record list down here. Let me just bring up a few records using the recent items briefcase, which is automatically generated each time you visit a new object, a new record. So each of these fields are expandable. Again, you can drag in another field, say place, and it will come in at the end. Or you can remove any of these fields as well. For instance, display dates, just by clicking on it in your field list. This in particular is what we call the detail list, the data list for the records in the view. You can also show them in a thumbnail grid, which shows, of course, in a grid of the thumbnails of the artworks, or in a thumbnail list, which gives a little bit more room for text with each of the records. This view is optimized for displaying thousands of records. So if you wanted to, you could even, say, bring up, in this case, almost 2,000 records and scroll through, and it will load as you scroll. So you can jump to any position, you can drag and drop to rearrange the records if you want them to go in different order. Right, but it's completely optimized to handle a heavy load of data, because the collection here is very large. There are also some other possibilities for using your modifier keys like Shift and Option and Command. For instance, if you Shift click on a header, it will show you a faceted list of the different unique values. It's a bit too many in that list, but for instance, if we had a smaller grouping, then it would be a little bit easier to handle there. You can also sort on each of the headers. If you want to do a secondary sort, you can Option click on a second field, and then it will show you down below sorted by medium display ascending or title ascending. If you click again, it'll reverse the sort. If you want to take away the secondary sort, then just click back onto the original field. Let's take a look at the searches menu over here. As you might have noticed, there's a list of searches. You can create new searches by saving this search and then selecting whether you want to have it only available to yourself, available to a work group, which we'll get to later, available to your department, or globally available to everyone. You can also add a comment. The comments will appear when you hover over the name of the search. Also, you can save from the search specific area menu here, or you can delete or edit them. In a similar manner, you can save the views. The views are the list of fields that you have displayed in the record viewing area. As well, you can save briefcases of records, which are the records that you have displayed in the view. You can save those as a personal, departmental, or a global briefcase, which are available to everyone. for a bit of a more interesting view of the list of briefcases that you have. You can show them in alphabetical order or in creator by who's shared briefcases with you, which briefcases were modified most recently, and by the size. So if you look into each of these areas, there are some options with right-click for, say, selecting all or selecting none. You can refresh the data that's displayed via a right-click or change the fields that are shown in the view. Let's take a look in the Views area menu. Again, I'll move this over so it shows up in the video. You can save the briefcase, that's the records that you are showing there. You can save the view, the fields that you have shown, clear the current view. You can remove or show only the selected records that you have in the records selection there. You can move a record to a position in the assortment of records that you have in the view. You can print a document containing each of these records, which would show up in optionally the same any of the view layouts that you have selected here. So you can print it just in a data list, or you can print the thumbnails as well. There's a lot of options here, including slideshows, functionality for printing canned reports from this view, and also for accessing batch change, which we'll cover in another video. One important aspect of these managers, which all the managers actually work in a very similar manner, an important aspect is that you can drag from manager to manager. For instance, here you see the image manager. Now if you wanted to see what images were related to, say, a selection of records here, you could drag those records over to this image manager. It asks you what kind of images would you like to show. In this case, let's just see the preferred images. Those are the images that will be published to the web or wherever those kind of things go. And here you see the thumbnails for the images of the objects that we have selected. Drag and drop works between all of the images, all of the managers. For instance, if you wanted to look up an artist, which would be in the agent manager, and then see all the objects that are related to that artist or multiple artists, just drag an agent from the agent manager into the object manager. And then you can drag those objects into the image manager to see all the related images. Let's take a quick look at the user preferences that you have available for some of the options in the manager. As I showed you earlier, you have a briefcase automatically generated of recent items that you've opened in each of the managers. So in my case, it's the last 25 object records that I've opened. You can set that to any number. If you'd like certain managers to open when you start up the program, you can select all or none of the managers. As you see, I have none of them selected, but if you work for, say, in the registrar's office and you want to see all of the loans and exhibitions managers, you'd select transactions, shipments, tasks, and exhibitions. As well, you can automatically show the field palette each time you open a manager. without having to call it up with either a hotkey or from the menu. We're always adding new preferences, so keep an eye out for new features there. Sometimes you get a lot of windows open. For instance, you see here there's a image manager hiding behind the object manager, or you can open up another object manager on top of that. All of these windows are listed underneath the window menu. So if you want to bring up one of the managers, you can just click on it from there without having to sort through the windows on your desktop. So without that wraps up our first video here for Welcome to CITI. Thanks very much, and stay tuned for the next segment on the windows, the edit windows for the objects.